I walked into my bedroom and found my wife with another man. But that wasn't the worst part. My name is James Morgan. I'm a chief warrant officer, 42 years old, and what I discovered that November afternoon in our Boston home wasn't just infidelity. It was a systematic rotation. 5 different men. A schedule. My wife had turned our marriage into an operation, and when I finally uncovered the truth, the rage that came wasn't just anger. It was something colder, something tactical. I'd spent 14 years in special operations, and I knew exactly what this was. Enemy engagement. Elise thought her careful planning would protect her. Her boyfriend Rollins thought his badge made him untouchable. They both learned the hard way that you don't betray a man trained in strategic warfare and walk away clean. What followed wasn't just a divorce. It was total destruction, systematic, calculated, complete. They tried to frame me, destroy my reputation, steal everything I'd worked for, and I made them pay for every single move. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I'd been suspicious for 5 weeks. Elise, my wife of 11 years, had changed. Late nights at the pharmaceutical company where she worked in management, secretive with her phone, angling it away when I walked past. That distant look in her eyes like she was somewhere else even when we sat at the same table. I'm not stupid. I know the signs. 14 years in special operations teaches you to read people, to spot when something's off. But I'd been hoping I was wrong, hoping it was work stress, or maybe just the natural drift that happens in marriages. That Thursday, I left my defense contracting job at 2:30 in the afternoon. Told my partner I had a migraine. Truth was, I needed to know. Needed to confirm what my gut had been screaming for weeks. The BMW in my driveway hit me first. Silver, expensive, parked like it belonged there. My front door was unlocked. Elise always locked it during the day. Always. I pushed it open quietly. Every instinct from my years overseas kicking in. Voices upstairs. Elise's laugh, the one she used to save for me. Then a man's voice, cocky and loud, saying something I couldn't make out. I took the stairs without a sound and pushed open the bedroom door. Elise was pulling on her blouse, hair messy, face flushed. The man on my bed, late 40s, broad shoulders still in his uniform pants, turned and looked at me like I was the one who didn't belong. "Well, look who's home early," he said, smirking. "Get out of my house," I said. My voice came out flat, controlled. Elise's face went white. "James, I'm talking to him." I kept my eyes on the cop. "Out now." He stood up slowly, deliberately buttoning his shirt. "Or what, tough guy? You going to make me?" He stepped closer, his hand resting near his belt where his service weapon should have been. Lucky for him, it was on my nightstand. "I'm Officer Rollins, and I don't take orders from civilians." My jaw tightened. "You're sleeping with my wife in my bed. You're going to walk out of my house right now, or I'm going to make you wish you had." Rollins laughed. Actually laughed. "You threatening a police officer? That's a felony, buddy." He pulled out his phone. "Matter of fact, I'm thinking you look pretty aggressive right now. Might need to call this in. Domestic disturbance could get real messy for you." Elise found her voice. "James, just let us explain." "Us?" I looked at her, the woman I'd married, the one I'd trusted completely. "There's an us now?" "We're in love," she said. And the way she said it, defensive, defiant, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. Deliberate. "How long?" I asked. 7 months, Rollins answered for her, that smirk still on his face. "And honestly, man, you should be thanking me." She wasn't exactly satisfied at home, if you know what I mean. That's when he moved. Maybe he thought I'd swing first, give him an excuse. Maybe he just wanted to show dominance. He stepped forward aggressively, his hand coming up toward my chest, his eyes daring me to react. I did. My training took over like muscle memory. I caught his wrist, redirected his momentum, swept his lead leg, and had him face down on my bedroom floor in less than 2 seconds. His arm locked behind him in a control hold that would snap his elbow if he struggled wrong. "Get off him!" Elise screamed. "Shut up!" I said, my voice still calm. I spoke directly into Rollins' ear. "You came into my home. You disrespected me in my own bedroom, and then you thought you could put your hands on me." I applied just enough pressure to make him gasp. "I spent 14 years in special operations. I've neutralized threats in 7 different countries. You're just a local cop who's been screwing my wife and thinks his badge makes him bulletproof." "You're assaulting an officer," he wheezed. "I'll destroy you." "No." I tightened the hold a fraction. "You broke into my home while on duty, in uniform, to commit adultery. You just threatened me with false charges, and you put your hands on me first, which my doorbell camera caught everything." I hadn't checked if it was on, but he didn't need to know that. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to stay away from my wife, and you're going to pray I don't file a complaint that ends your career." I released him and stepped back. Rollins scrambled up, his face purple with rage and humiliation. His neck was blotchy, his breathing hard. "This isn't over," he spat. "You have no idea who you're messing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with," I said. "A coward who hides behind a badge. Now get out." He grabbed his weapon and belt, shot me one last look that promised retaliation, and left. I heard his car door slam. The engine roared to life, tires squealing as he backed out. Elise tried to approach me. "James, please, just listen." "Don't." I held up a hand. My chest was tight, but my voice stayed steady. "Pack a bag, go to your sister's, we'll talk through lawyers." "You're overreacting?" "I'm reacting perfectly." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. The woman I'd loved was gone. This stranger in her place wasn't my problem anymore. "Get out of my house, Elise. Now." She left within 90 minutes, crying and screaming that I was being unreasonable, that I was ruining everything. I stood in the doorway and watched her taillights disappear down the street. Then I went inside, sat down at my computer, and started doing what I was trained to do: intelligence gathering. But what I found in the next 2 hours would turn my anger into something far more calculated. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't have, even if I'd wanted to. Instead, I sat at my desk and did what 14 years in special operations had trained me to do: gather intelligence on my enemies. I started with Rollins, social media accounts, public records, court documents, started with the basics and went deeper from there. 15 years on the police force. 4 formal complaints filed against him, all dismissed. That caught my attention. 4 complaints, 0 consequences. Either he was squeaky clean, which I knew damn well he wasn't, or someone was protecting him. I dug further. Traffic stops, arrest records, incident reports. A pattern emerged pretty quick. Rollins had a reputation for aggressive stops in working-class neighborhoods. Lots of citations, lots of searches, very few actual arrests that stuck. Classic fishing expedition tactics, hoping to find something worth charging. 2 divorces. Both wives cited irreconcilable differences, but the timing suggested something else. First divorce came right after he made sergeant. Second one lasted barely 4 years. Then I found the gambling debts. Public records from a civil suit 3 years back. A casino had sued him for $23,000 in unpaid markers. Case was settled out of court. Terms sealed, but the filing was still there. But it was Elise's digital trail that revealed the real nightmare. Her laptop was still logged in. I know, invasion of privacy, but at that point, I didn't care. What I found made my blood run cold. A calendar, color-coded, with names. Rollins. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 hours 4:30 p.m. Williams. Mondays, 1 hour 3 on 1 p.m. Miller. Wednesdays, 3 on 1 5 on p.m. Courtney. Fridays, 2:30, 5 on 1 p.m. Amber. Alternating Saturdays, 11 on and a.m. 2 at 1 p.m. 5 different people. A rotation. My wife had been running an affair operation like it was a business. 7 months of scheduled encounters, notes about each one. R likes afternoon sessions. W always brings wine. M prefers the guest room. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling something inside me go completely cold. This wasn't just an affair, this was systematic betrayal. Organized, planned. She'd turned our home into a rotation schedule while I was at work, trusting her, believing in our marriage. I screenshot everything, every calendar entry, every text message I could find, every email. I saved it all to 3 different encrypted drives, printed hard copies. Then I found the group chat. She'd created a private messaging group. Elise's friends. But the messages weren't about friendship. Elise. Tuesday clear. James working late on the Cambridge project. Rollins. Perfect. I'll bring lunch this time. Williams. Don't forget Monday is mine. Been 2 weeks. Miller. She's worth the wait, brother. They knew about each other. They were coordinating, comparing notes, rating her, talking about my wife like she was a shared commodity and she was facilitating it all. My hands were shaking, not with rage, but with something colder, something tactical. I kept reading, found messages going back 9 months, found photos they'd shared, found conversations where Elise complained about me, about our marriage, about how I was always working and emotionally unavailable. Found the moment when Rollins had suggested bringing in others. Why limit yourself, he'd written. You deserve to feel wanted by men who appreciate you. And she'd agreed, enthusiastically. The real gold came when I called Miller, a former intelligence analyst who'd worked with our unit in Eastern Europe. Miller owed me. I'd covered for him when an operation went sideways in Romania, took the heat so he could keep his security clearance. I need access to sealed internal affairs files, I told him. Police department, local level. That's not exactly legal, James. Neither is a cop breaking into my house to sleep with my wife and then threatening me. And there are 4 others doing the same thing. Send me the details. Took him 50 minutes. When the files came through, I understood why Rollins' complaints had been dismissed. 3 years ago, he'd been under internal investigation for evidence tampering. Witness statements altered, body cam footage that mysteriously corrupted, chain of custody issues on drug evidence. The investigation was thorough, detailed, and damning, and then it just stopped. Case closed. No disciplinary action. The lead investigator's notes mentioned pressure from department leadership and insufficient cooperation from key witnesses. Translation: someone killed the investigation. Someone with enough pull to make it disappear. I saved everything to 3 different encrypted drives, printed hard copies. By the time the sun came up, I had complete dossiers on all 5 of them. Rollins, corrupt cop with a protected past. Williams, married financial advisor who'd been skimming client accounts, SEC investigation pending. Miller, different person, not my contact. A real estate developer with 3 lawsuits for fraud. Courtney, divorced personal trainer with a history of relationship hopping and restraining orders from 2 ex-girlfriends. Amber, married pharmaceutical rep who worked with Elise carrying on the affair while her husband traveled for work. You ever watch people self-destruct and realize they built the bomb themselves? That's what I was looking at. 5 people, all with vulnerabilities, all with secrets, all thinking they were untouchable because they'd gotten away with it for 7 months. All I had to do was make sure the right people saw it. First call of the morning was to Williams Crawford. We'd served together when he was a JAG officer before he'd transitioned to civilian law practice. He specialized in complex litigation now, and he owed me favors from our deployment days. Williams, I need a divorce filed today, I said. And I need you to freeze all joint accounts and file a restraining order. Slow down. What happened? I gave him the condensed version. Caught Elise with a cop. But it's worse. She's been running a rotation. 5 different people. Scheduled encounters in our home for 7 months. I've got calendars, messages, photos, everything. Williams whistled low. Jesus, James, this is beyond typical infidelity. It gets worse. The cop threatened me. Put his hands on me first. I defended myself. He's now making threats. And I've got evidence suggesting he's corrupt. This is going to get ugly. It already is, I said. I'm just making sure I come out on top. What kind of evidence do you have on the adultery? Caught them in my bed. Got his BMW on my driveway security camera with timestamps showing he was there during his shift. I've got her entire calendar showing all 5 of them, organized by day and time. Messages where they coordinate. Photos they shared, everything documented. And the restraining order? He threatened me in my own home, made it clear he'd use his badge to come after me. Last night, I got a text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. I'm 99% sure it's him. Send me everything. I'll file today. But James, you need to understand he's a cop. That changes the calculation. Judges don't like to go against law enforcement without ironclad proof. Then we'll give them ironclad proof. I spent the rest of that day securing everything, changed every password on every account, documented the contents of the house room by room, photographs, video, detailed notes, made copies of all financial records, investment statements, property deeds. Elise tried calling 8 times. I didn't answer. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. 3 words. You'll regret this. I screenshot it, saved it to my evidence folder, and forwarded it to Williams. Then I sat back and waited. Rollins would make his move soon. Men like him always did. They couldn't stand being humiliated, couldn't handle losing control. But what I didn't expect was just how desperate and coordinated their response would be. 3 days passed. I maintained my documentation routine, logged everything, kept records of every attempt Elise made to contact me, every strange car that drove past my house in our Beacon Hill neighborhood. Williams called on the afternoon of day 3. Restraining orders filed. Divorce papers are ready to serve. Bank accounts are frozen pending the hearing. Good. James, be careful. This guy's not going to just roll over. I'm counting on it, I said, because when Rollins made his next move, I'd be ready. 3 days after I filed for divorce, I was driving to work when I saw the patrol lights flash behind me on Commonwealth Avenue. I glanced in the rearview mirror and my jaw tightened. Rollins' squad car, another unit behind him. Backup, of course. I activated my dash cam, the one I'd installed the morning after the confrontation, and pulled over to the shoulder. Kept my hands visible on the wheel. Deep breath. Stay calm. Let him make the mistakes. Rollins took his time getting out, making me wait. Power play. When he finally swaggered up to my window, he had a smirk plastered across his face that made my blood simmer. License and registration, he said, leaning down like we were strangers. I handed them over, keeping my voice level. Harassing me now, Officer Rollins. Just doing my job. He made a show of examining my license. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds? His smirk widened. I smell marijuana. There it was, the fabricated probable cause. I'd been expecting something like this, but hearing it still made my chest tighten with controlled rage. I don't use drugs, I said clearly, projecting toward the dash cam. You can search the car. I stepped out, hands visible, movements deliberate. The backup officer, young guy, maybe mid-20s, stood by his cruiser watching, probably didn't even know what Rollins was really up to. Rollins made an exaggerated show of searching my Jeep, opening compartments, running his hands under seats, checking the glove box. The backup officer shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable but staying quiet. 6 minutes of theatrics. Rollins found nothing because there was nothing to find. Then I saw it. His hand went to his own pocket, pulled out a small plastic baggie, looked like marijuana, probably confiscated from some other stop. He palmed it smoothly, moved toward my driver's side door, positioning himself to drop it near the floor mat. I'd seen insurgents plant explosives with more subtlety. "That's not mine," I said loudly, voice cutting through the morning air. "And you know it. You just pulled that from your own pocket to plant evidence in my vehicle." Rollins froze. His face flickered. Surprise, then anger. He hadn't expected me to call it out, hadn't expected me to be watching that closely. "That's a serious accusation," he said, recovering, trying to sound authoritative for his backup's benefit. "And I have it on video," I said, gesturing toward my dashboard. "My dash cam records continuously. Audio, video, GPS, timestamp. It caught you pulling that baggie from your uniform pocket and moving to plant it in my car." We locked eyes. I saw the calculation running behind his gaze, saw him weighing his options. The backup officer was watching now, uncertain, sensing something wasn't right. "So here's how this works," I continued, my voice cold and controlled. "You can arrest me right now, and I'll have you charged with evidence planting, false arrest, and abuse of power. That footage goes straight to the FBI Public Corruption Unit. I've got contacts there from my service days. Your career ends, and you spend the next 6 to 12 years in federal prison." I took a step closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "Or you can pocket that baggie, get back in your car, and walk away. Your choice, Officer Rollins. But make it fast." The silence stretched between us. His face went purple, rage mixing with humiliation. His hand tightened around the baggie, knuckles white. "You know what the worst thing is for a bully? Being called out in front of witnesses. Being forced to back down." Rollins' entire identity was wrapped up in that badge, in the power it gave him over people. And I just stripped that power away on a public roadside with his backup watching. After what felt like an hour but was probably 40 seconds, Rollins shoved the baggie back into his pocket. "Get out of here," he muttered, stepping back. I got back in my car, keeping my movements calm, started the engine. As I pulled away, I heard Rollins' voice one more time. "Watch yourself, Morgan. I've got eyes everywhere." I drove 4 blocks, pulled into a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and called Williams. "He just tried to plant drugs in my car," I said without preamble. "Traffic stop, fake probable cause, the whole setup. I've got it on dash cam, him pulling the baggie from his own pocket, everything." "Send me the footage now." I transferred the file while we talked. I heard Williams' sharp intake of breath when he watched it. "This is evidence of corruption," Williams said. "Attempted evidence planting, abuse of power. This proves everything you've been saying about him." "Yeah, but you know what else it proves?" "What?" "He's not going to stop. He's escalating. And next time he might not be stupid enough to do it on camera." Williams was quiet for a moment. "James, this just became a legal war. You understand that?" I understood it perfectly. "Then we'd better make sure we win," I said, and ended the call. That evening, I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing financial documents when my phone buzzed. Elise's number. I let it ring twice before answering. "What?" "James, we need to talk about the divorce." Her voice was tentative, almost apologetic. "Almost?" "Talk to my lawyer." "No, listen, Talk to Williams. We're done communicating directly." "James, please, Rollins is filing charges against you." The room went very still. My hand tightened around the phone. "Say that again." "Assault charges. From that night. He's filing an official report saying you attacked him unprovoked." My blood turned cold, not with fear, but with rage. Pure, controlled rage. I'd known Rollins would retaliate, but this, weaponizing the legal system itself, turning my act of self-defense in my own home into a criminal charge. "He came into my house," I said, my voice deadly quiet. "He was in my bedroom with my wife, and he put his hands on me first. You were there, Elise. You saw it." "That's not what his report says." "Then his report is a lie?" Silence. Then, James, he's a police officer. Who do you think they're going to believe, you or him? There it was, the truth laid bare. Rollins thought his badge made his lies into facts, thought the system would automatically side with him over a civilian, even one who'd served his country for 14 years. Let me ask you something, I said. Are you backing his story? The silence stretched longer this time. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Elise, answer the question. Are you backing his false story? Yes or no? Are you willing to lie to the police to protect the man who destroyed our marriage? I love him. Her voice cracked. And you heard him, James. You could have just let us go. You could have just walked away and let us be together. But you had to be violent. You had to put your hands on him and humiliate him. I hung up, just pressed the end button, and set the phone down on the table. For a long moment, I sat there in complete silence. The kitchen light hummed overhead. Outside, a car drove past. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal life. Except my life had just stopped being normal. This wasn't about divorce anymore. This wasn't about Elise cheating with 5 different people or Rollins being a corrupt cop. This was about my freedom, my reputation, my entire future. Rollins was trying to destroy me using his badge. And Elise was actively helping him. She was going to lie to authorities. She was going to stand in front of police, maybe even a judge, and swear that I'd attacked an officer unprovoked in my own home. They were conspiring against me. You know what they teach you in special operations? That when the enemy changes tactics, you change yours. When the battlefield shifts, you adapt. When someone comes at you with overwhelming force, you don't meet them head-on. You flank them, you outthink them. You use their own momentum against them. Rollins and Elise thought they had the advantage. Thought the badge and the uniform and the official reports would win the day. Thought I'd panic, maybe hire a mediocre lawyer, maybe take a plea deal just to make it go away. They had no idea what they'd just started. I pulled out a notepad and started writing names. Contacts from my years in special operations. People who owed me favors. People who knew how to fight dirty when the situation called for it. Rollins Thompson, FBI Public Corruption Unit. We'd saved each other's lives in Colombia. James Wilson ran a private investigation firm staffed entirely by former military, specialized in surveillance and intelligence gathering. Marjorie Harris, investigative journalist who'd exposed 4 corrupt police departments in the last 6 years. I had resources, I had training, and most importantly, I had something Rollins and Elise didn't have. I was telling the truth. This was war now. Total war. And they just made the fatal mistake of attacking someone who'd been trained in strategic warfare since he was 28 years old. I picked up my phone and started making calls. The next morning, I started making calls. First up was Rollins Thompson. We'd served together in South America, 4 tours, countless missions, and more than one situation where we'd pulled each other out of bad spots. Now he worked for the FBI's Public Corruption Unit, investigating dirty cops and corrupt officials. He answered on the second ring. James Morgan, it's been too long, brother. Rollins, I need help. Dirty cop situation, personal. His tone shifted immediately. Talk to me. I laid it all out. Elise's affair? No, her rotation. 5 different people over 7 months. Coming home to find her with Rollins, the cop. The confrontation where he put his hands on me first, and I defended myself. The attempted drug planting during the traffic stop. And now the false assault charges with Elise backing his lies. By the time I finished, Rollins was quiet for a long moment. This guy, he finally said, his voice tight with anger, is a textbook example of badge abuse, using his position to intimidate, plant evidence, file false charges, everything we investigate in my unit, and he's doing it over a personal vendetta because you embarrassed him in front of his mistress. Can you help? Send me everything you have, every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. I'll open a preliminary inquiry into his activities. We've got protocols for this kind of situation. And once I file the paperwork, it's official. He won't know we're looking at him until we're ready to move. I felt something loosen in my chest. Thanks, Rollins. You saved my life in Bogota twice. This doesn't even begin to cover that debt. My second call went to James Wilson. We'd crossed paths in Eastern Europe. He'd been running covert operations while I was still in special ops. Now he ran a private investigation firm in Virginia, staffed entirely by former military operators. James, it's James Morgan. I need surveillance, complete coverage. Who's the target? 6 targets. Officer Rollins, local police, my soon-to-be ex-wife, Elise Morgan, and 4 others involved in an affair rotation. Williams, Miller, Courtney, and Amber. I need to know everywhere they go, everyone they meet, everything they do. Full documentation, video when possible, legal and above board. James didn't hesitate. What's the situation? I gave him the abbreviated version. He whistled low. Dirty cop trying to frame a veteran over an affair rotation? Yeah, I'll take that job. You'll have teams on all 6 targets within 36 hours. Military-grade surveillance, all legal, everything admissible in court. These people won't be able to sneeze without us documenting it. What's this going to cost me? Cost of operation plus 10%. Call it a professional courtesy between brothers. We look out for our own, especially when some badge-wearing piece of work thinks he can abuse the system. Third call was to Marjorie Harris, an investigative journalist I'd met 3 years back when she'd interviewed me for a piece on veteran transition programs. Since then, she'd made a name exposing police misconduct in 4 different departments. Marjorie, how do you feel about exposing a dirty cop? I could hear the interest in her voice immediately. I feel like it's Christmas morning. What do you have? Everything. Badge abuse, evidence planting, false charges, the whole package. But here's the twist. He's part of an affair rotation. 5 people, coordinated schedule, 7 months of systematic betrayal. Give me 72 hours to get the documentation together, and I'll hand you a story that'll go viral. You're not exaggerating. I spent 14 years in special operations. I don't exaggerate threats or opportunities. This cop is dirty. He's trying to frame me over a personal vendetta, and I've got proof of multiple corrupt acts. Plus evidence of an organized affair ring. You interested? Send me what you have when you're ready. If it's half as good as you're saying, I'll run it on the front page. Over the next 4 days, I lived in a strange kind of limbo, waiting for the arrest I knew was coming, but building my counterattack piece by piece. James' team started sending updates. Rollins meeting someone at a bar turned out to be a known bookie he'd arrested 3 times but never charged. Elise going to her sister's house in Cambridge, staying for 4 hours. Rollins and Williams meeting at a coffee shop downtown. Animated conversation. The 5 of them, all 5, meeting at a cheap hotel in Quincy, even though any of them could have hosted. They're paranoid, James said during one check-in, acting like people who know they're doing something wrong. And this rotation thing, they're still coordinating it. Even with everything falling apart, they can't let it go. Rollins called on day 2. I've opened the preliminary inquiry now. Send me that dash cam footage of the attempted drug planting. I uploaded it to the secure server he provided. This is gold, he said after watching it. Clear evidence of corruption, perfect audio, timestamp, and GPS data. It establishes a pattern of behavior. He's willing to plant evidence to harm someone he has a personal problem with. Combined with his history of dismissed complaints, this paints a very clear picture. How long until you can move on him? These things take time, James, but I'm building a case. Just stay clean. Don't do anything that gives him ammunition and let me work. On the 4th day, I was having coffee when I saw the squad cars pull up to my house. 5 of them, not Rollins. They'd sent other officers to make the arrest. Probably figured it would look better if he wasn't personally involved. I set down my mug, took a deep breath, and walked to the door. Time to see how good their lies really were. 4 days after I'd activated my network, I watched 5 squad cars pull up to my house through my living room window. I set down my coffee, took one last calm breath, and walked to the front door. They had an arrest warrant. I'd been expecting it. What I hadn't expected was seeing Rollins in the fifth car, leaning against the hood with his arms crossed and that same smirk plastered across his face. He wasn't part of the official arrest. He'd just come along to watch. The lead officer, a younger guy named Officer Townsend, who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation, stepped forward. "James Morgan? That's me. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of assault on a police officer. You need to come with us." "Understood." I turned around, hands behind my back. I'm not resisting. They cuffed me while Rollins watched, that smirk growing wider. I kept my face completely blank, giving him nothing. This was exactly what I'd prepared for. The ride to the station was silent. I didn't ask questions, didn't make small talk, didn't give them anything they could twist later. Williams was waiting when they brought me in. He'd been on standby since my call 4 days ago, ready to move the second this happened. "Don't say a word," he told me quietly as they processed me. Not one single word. I nodded. They put me in an interrogation room. Beige walls, metal table, 2 chairs. The detective who came in was a 22-year veteran named Detective Holloway, with tired eyes and a wedding ring he kept turning on his finger. "Mr. Morgan, I'm going to ask you some questions about the incident on the night of—" "My client has nothing to say," Williams interrupted from where he sat beside me. Holloway looked at me. "You understand you're being charged with assault on a police officer? That's a serious felony. If you want to explain your side—" I stayed silent. Holloway sighed and opened his folder. "We have Officer Rollins' sworn statement describing how you came home, found him with your wife, and became enraged." He paused. "He says you verbally threatened both him and Mrs. Morgan, then physically attacked him without provocation when he tried to calm the situation." I kept my face neutral. The lies were exactly what I'd expected. "We also have a statement from Elise Morgan, your wife, who witnessed the entire incident." Holloway slid a paper across the table. "She corroborates Officer Rollins' account. Says you came in angry, made threats, and attacked Officer Rollins when he tried to defuse things peacefully." My jaw tightened slightly, but I said nothing. Elise was lying under oath to protect her boyfriend. The conspiracy was now documented. Holloway tried for another 20 minutes, asking questions, describing the charges, explaining how cooperation might help my case. I sat there in complete silence, my hands folded on the table. Finally, he gave up. After the interview, they put me in a holding cell. Williams came back an hour later. "The charges are serious," he said quietly through the bars. "Assault on a police officer, Class 2 felony. Elise's testimony as an eyewitness strengthens their case significantly. They're pushing for high bail, but I've already filed preliminary motions. Once we present your evidence, the doorbell footage if it exists, your lack of injuries versus his, the timeline inconsistencies, this case falls apart. Elise is lying, and we'll prove it. When's arraignment?" "Tomorrow morning. I'll get you out on bail. Then we go to work destroying them in court." I nodded, then pulled out the list of phone numbers I'd memorized. "I need to make my calls." First call went to Rollins Thompson. "They arrested me," I said without preamble. "Assault on a police officer. Elise is backing his story with false testimony." "Conspiracy to file false charges," Rollins said immediately. "That's federal. Send me her statement the second you get a copy. I'm accelerating everything on my end." Second call went to James Wilson. "I need everything you have on all 6 of them immediately. Photos, videos, meetings, all of it. They've got me on assault charges and I need ammunition." "You'll have it by tonight," James promised. "We've already got some interesting material. This rotation is still active. They met twice since you filed for divorce." Third call went to Marjorie Harris. "Prepare for a major story drop within 72 hours, I told her. Dirty cop frames veteran over affair rotation. Conspiracy with wife and 4 others. I'll have documentation, evidence, everything you need." "I'll clear my schedule," Marjorie said. "This is going to be huge." The arraignment was quick. The prosecutor pushed for $75,000 bail, calling me a trained special operations soldier who'd assaulted an officer. Williams countered with my clean record, military service, and community ties. The judge, an older woman named Judge Patricia Moreland, who'd clearly seen her share of dirty cop cases, set bail at $30,000 and a hearing for 3 weeks out. Walking out of the courthouse, Williams put a hand on my shoulder. "We're going to destroy them in court," he said. His lies, Elise's false testimony, all of it. Just stay patient. I shook my head. I'm not waiting for the hearing, Williams. I'm done being defensive. I pulled out my phone and started texting. Rollins, James, Marjorie, all of them. I'm going on offense, I said. Right now. The day after my release, I walked into Williams' office to find it already full. Rollins Thompson stood by the window, arms crossed. James Wilson sat at the conference table with a laptop and 4 thick folders. Marjorie Harris leaned against the wall, notepad ready. This was my war council. "Gentlemen, Marjorie," I said, closing the door. "What have we got?" James opened the first folder. Surveillance gold. This rotation is still operational, even during your legal troubles. He slid photos across the table. Rollins shaking hands with Tommy Morrison, a known bookie who operated out of a bar on Boylston Street. Another shot of Rollins accepting a thick envelope from Derek Hayes, a mid-level dealer the department had been investigating for 8 months. 4 separate meetings with bookies, James said, all during duty hours. And here's the best part. He pulled up video on his laptop. Rollins standing outside the police station at night, filling out paperwork in his patrol car. The timestamp showed him backdating reports. Falsifying police reports, I said. That's not all. James clicked through more footage. He uses his patrol car for personal errands constantly. Grocery runs, picking up dry cleaning, visiting Elise at her sister's house in Cambridge, which is way outside his assigned district, by the way. And the rotation? I asked. James pulled up more photos. All 5 of them met at that Quincy hotel 3 days ago. 2 hours. Elise coordinated it through encrypted messaging, but we got photos of all 5 vehicles in the parking lot, time-stamped entry and exit. They're still running it, I said. Even now. They can't help themselves, James confirmed. Williams keeps showing up on Mondays, Miller on Wednesdays. The whole schedule is still operational. They think they're untouchable. Rollins Thompson stepped forward with his own folder. FBI's been digging too. Found evidence tampering in 6 cases from the past 4 years. Witness intimidation documented through phone records. He called victims of his misconduct repeatedly until they dropped their complaints. How many civilians filed complaints against him? 22 over 15 years. Only 4 were sustained, and those got buried in appeals. The rest, systematic harassment until they withdrew. Rollins pulled out bank statements. Financial records show deposits inconsistent with his salary. We're talking $7,000 to $9,000 deposits every few months. No legitimate source. The bookie money, I said. Exactly. I added my contribution, the flash drive with the dash cam footage. And here's him trying to plant drugs in my car 3 days ago. Rollins's jaw tightened. This destroys his credibility completely. Once a jury sees him planting evidence, every arrest he's ever made becomes questionable. Marjorie was scribbling notes furiously. This is bigger than just your case, James. This is systemic corruption combined with an organized affair network. How many cases has he tainted? How many families has this rotation destroyed? That's for the FBI to figure out, I said. Right now, I need my charges dismissed and all 6 of them facing consequences. Williams had been quiet, reviewing everything. Now he looked up. I can compile this into a motion to dismiss with prejudice. Rollins, can you get me sworn affidavits from his previous victims? Already working on it. I've located 9 people willing to testify about his misconduct. Then we file tomorrow, Williams said. and we bury him. James cleared his throat. There's one more thing. The other 4 in the rotation, they all have vulnerabilities we can exploit. He opened another folder. Williams, the financial advisor, he's under SEC investigation for unauthorized trading in client accounts. $340,000 in questionable transactions over 2 years. Mueller, the real estate developer, 3 active fraud lawsuits. 2 properties he sold had undisclosed foundation issues. He knew and hid the reports. Courtney, the personal trainer, 2 restraining orders from ex-partners. History of harassment and stalking behavior. Amber, the pharmaceutical rep, she's married. Her husband travels for business. He has no idea. But more interesting, she's been inflating sales numbers and falsifying territory reports to her company. I've got documentation. So all 6 of them are vulnerable, I said. All 6 have secrets, legal issues, things they don't want exposed. Exactly, James confirmed. This isn't just about you and Rollins anymore. This is a coordinated operation involving 6 people, all of whom have something to hide, all of whom will turn on each other the moment pressure is applied. I looked around the room. Then let's apply pressure. 1 week later, I sat in Judge Patricia Moreland's courtroom. She reviewed Williams' motion, her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. Rollins sat across the aisle with his union lawyer, looking confident. Elise sat in the gallery behind him, her face tight with worry. They had no idea what was coming. Judge Moreland looked up. Mr. Crawford, you're asking me to dismiss these charges with prejudice based on alleged misconduct by the arresting officer? Not alleged, Your Honor. Williams stood. Documented, video recorded, and corroborated by federal investigation. He approached the bench with the evidence package. Moreland's expression was neutral as she opened it. Then she watched the dash cam footage. I saw the exact moment she understood. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at Rollins, then back at the screen. She reviewed the surveillance photos, the FBI findings, the witness statements from people Rollins had harassed and intimidated. Her expression shifted from neutral to outraged. Officer Rollins, she said quietly. Stand up. Rollins stood, confusion flickering across his face. I'm not just dismissing these charges, Moreland said, her voice cold. I'm throwing this case out with prejudice. It cannot be refiled ever. Rollins' face went white. Furthermore, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into you and every officer who supported this arrest. I'm referring this evidence to Internal Affairs and the FBI. She looked at the prosecutor. And I'm questioning the sworn statement provided by Elise Morgan. I'm referring her to the district attorney for potential perjury charges. Elise made a small sound from the gallery. Moreland looked at me. Mr. Morgan, you're free to go, and you have my apologies. I stood, feeling vindication settle into my bones. As I walked out of the courthouse with Williams, my phone buzzed. Marjorie's text. Article just went live. The headline read, Decorated veteran framed by corrupt officer in 5-person affair rotation scheme. The morning after the dismissal, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages flooded in from veterans organizations across the country. Civil rights groups wanting to know if I'd speak about police corruption. People I'd never met thanking me for exposing Rollins and former victims. God, so many people who'd been targeted by him over the years, all grateful someone had finally made it stick. Marjorie's article had hit like a bomb. 8 million views in the first 18 hours. Every detail was there. The affair rotation. 5 people, coordinated schedule, 7 months. The framing, the evidence planting, the systematic corruption. National outlets were picking it up. Chief Warrant Officer James Morgan, decorated Special Operations veteran, systematically framed by corrupt officer and revenge scheme involving organized affair network. I couldn't deny the satisfaction. Rollins Thompson called mid-morning. FBI suspending Officer Rollins without pay. Full investigation launched. Internal Affairs is reviewing every case he's touched in 15 years. How many cases? Hundreds. We're talking potential mass exoneration if we find a pattern. And James, the other four in the rotation are panicking. Williams' firm is under full SEC audit. Miller's fraud lawsuits just got a lot more attention. Courtney's ex-partners are coming forward with new allegations. Amber's husband found out, and her company launched an internal investigation. They're all falling apart, I said. Like dominoes. The moment you exposed one, the rest couldn't hide anymore. Elise lost her job that afternoon. The pharmaceutical company issued a statement. Participation in filing false police reports and facilitation of inappropriate workplace relationships represents a liability we cannot ethically maintain. Williams filed the civil suits the same day. False arrest, malicious prosecution, emotional distress, against Rollins personally and the department institutionally. We're looking at high six figures, maybe 7, he told me. Departments hate this kind of exposure. The divorce accelerated. Elise's adultery was proven, documented with calendars, messages, photos. Her conspiracy with Rollins was on record. Williams assured me the ruling would strip her of everything. The house is yours. Savings are yours. She participated in criminal conspiracy against you. No judge will reward that. That evening, I appeared on the local news. Sat across from the anchor, calm and controlled. Mr. Morgan, some are calling this a revenge plot. I came home to find my wife had organized a 7-month rotation involving 5 different people, using our home as the location while I was at work. One of those people was a police officer who then tried to frame me for assault and plant drugs in my car. All I did was defend myself and seek justice through proper channels. I have evidence of everything. The interviewer nodded. And what do you say to supporters of Officer Rollins who claim you're using your military background to intimidate? I say, show me one instance where I broke the law. Show me one moment where I used force inappropriately. Everything I've done has been legal, documented, and in response to crimes committed against me. The public support became overwhelming. Hashtags trending, Ayas stand with Morgan, corrupt cop exposed, justice for veterans. The DA herself called to apologize. Mr. Morgan, our office deeply regrets the false arrest. We trusted Officer Rollins' report and failed to verify adequately. Your office nearly sent an innocent man to prison. I know, and we're reviewing our entire relationship with Officer Rollins' cases. For one perfect week, I felt like I'd won. Then Rollins made his desperate play. He went on a conservative talk radio show, voice shaking with what sounded like genuine fear. James Morgan is a trained killer. Special operations. He threatened my life that night. Told me exactly how he'd neutralized threats overseas and could do the same to me. I never said that, but he was selling it hard. This isn't about justice. It's about a dangerous man who can't accept that his wife chose someone else. He's using his military connections to destroy me because I humiliated him. Some outlets picked it up. Military vigilante or wronged veteran, one headline read. Talk radio went wild. We support our troops, but when does training cross into intimidation? When does seeking justice become abuse of power? The narrative shifted. Not everywhere. Most people still supported me, but enough voices questioned whether I'd gone too far, used my background inappropriately, acted like a vigilante instead of letting the system work. DA Roberts made a statement. In light of new information, our office is reviewing all aspects of this case. My civil suit stalled. Defense attorneys filed motions arguing I'd used excessive force in the initial confrontation and systematically intimidated their clients. Then Elise's lawyer filed for a continuance in the divorce. Claimed she'd signed documents under duress, that I'd coerced her through intimidation and threats. Public opinion split down the middle. I sat in Williams' office that evening, frustrated in a way I hadn't been since the arrest. He's flipping the script. We need something definitive, Williams said. Something that proves beyond any doubt he's lying. That's when my phone rang. James Wilson. Boss, you need to hear this. James' voice carried urgency I'd rarely heard from him. They met in Boston Common 4 days ago. Public place. No expectation of privacy. Everything's legal. What did you get? He played the recording. Elise's voice came through first, anxious. He's turning everything around on us. The article made Rollins look like some corrupt monster, and people believe it because that's what they want to believe. Rollins' voice, defensive and angry. Guy's a trained killer playing victim, and everyone's eating it up. So what do we do? We stick to the plan, Rollins said, his voice cold. Destroy the military bastard. Make him pay for humiliating me in his own house. His tone shifted to something crueler. I've got 3 other officers ready to testify they witnessed his aggressive behavior during previous traffic stops. Will that work? Williams, the financial advisor, asked. It'll muddy the waters, and once we break him psychologically, legally, Elise gets half his assets in the settlement. Elise actually laughed, cold and calculating. God, I can't wait to see his face when he realizes he lost everything. He put his hands on a police officer. That's a line you don't cross. We all benefit from this, Miller chimed in. Morgan goes down, we split his assets, and we keep the rotation going. Nobody has to know. What about the others? Courtney asked. Williams is handling his SEC problem, Rollins said. Miller's got lawyers on the fraud suits. Amber's husband is clueless. We just need to hold together and destroy Morgan's credibility. Make him look like an unstable veteran with PTSD who can't accept rejection. The recording continued, planning false testimony, discussing evidence they could fabricate, coordinating their stories. Clear conspiracy, undeniable fraud. All 6 of them working together to destroy me while protecting their operation. I sat frozen, listening to all 6 of them conspiring to destroy me while protecting their affair rotation. When it ended, I spoke. Send it to Rollins Thompson, Marjorie, and Williams. All 3 right now. Already done, boss. Figured you'd want it everywhere. Marjorie's article dropped that evening with the audio embedded. Exclusive recorded conspiracy. Corrupt cop and 5 co-conspirators plot to frame veteran. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Social media exploded. Not divided anymore. Unified in outrage. People who'd questioned my tactics now called all 6 of them exactly what they were. Conspirators, liars, criminals. D.A. Roberts held a press conference the next morning. She looked exhausted and furious. After reviewing new evidence, my office is filing federal conspiracy charges against Officer Rollins and 5 co-conspirators, Elise Morgan, Williams Davidson, Miller Hoffman, Courtney Blake, and Amber Rodriguez. Additional charges include filing false police reports, attempted fraud, and obstruction of justice. The police department didn't wait. Rollins was fired within hours. Full termination, no pension, immediate revocation of credentials. The chief announced a comprehensive review of every case Rollins had ever touched. Williams Davidson lost his securities license. The SEC moved to permanent ban. Miller Hoffman's fraud cases accelerated. 2 properties were seized pending litigation. Courtney Blake faced new stalking charges from 3 ex-partners who came forward. Amber Rodriguez was fired from her pharmaceutical job. Her husband filed for divorce the same day. Elise was arrested the following afternoon. I watched the news footage of her being led into the station in handcuffs, crying and claiming she'd been manipulated. Nobody bought it. Judge Moreland reconvened the divorce case personally, listened to the recording with an expression of pure disgust. Her ruling was absolute. Mr. Morgan receives full ownership of all marital assets. Ms. Morgan receives nothing and is ordered to pay Mr. Morgan's legal fees in their entirety. This conspiracy represents a moral and legal breach so severe that any claim to marital property is voided with prejudice. The civil suit settled 3 weeks later. $1.2 million from the police department, desperate to avoid further scandal. 8 months later, I sat in federal court watching Rollins' trial. Williams had prepared me perfectly. I testified for 4 hours, calm, precise, devastating. Every corrupt action Rollins had taken, every lie he'd told, every law he'd broken while wearing a badge. The rotation, the conspiracy, all of it. The jury took less than 4 hours, guilty on every single count. Judge Moreland sentenced him to 10 years federal prison, plus 3 additional years for civil rights violations against other victims who'd come forward once they saw someone had finally beaten him. Williams Davidson took a plea deal. 3 years, full restitution to defrauded clients. Miller Hoffman, 4 years for fraud, all properties seized. Courtney Blake, 18 months, 5 years probation for stalking. Amber Rodriguez, 2 years, permanent ban from pharmaceutical sales. Elise took a plea deal, 2 years, 4 years probation, her record permanently marked. She'd never work in any position requiring trust again. 1 year after that November afternoon in my bedroom, I stood in my house, mine alone now, and took stock. I'd started Morgan Security Consulting using the settlement money. Business was thriving, contracts with 4 major corporations, a waiting list of clients. Veterans organizations invited me to speak about fighting corruption, standing up to abuse of power. I'd become an example, apparently. Proof that good men don't have to be victims. And Marjorie? God, Marjorie was the best thing to come out of this entire nightmare. The journalist who'd exposed everything. We'd started talking after the trial, found common ground beyond the story. She understood what I'd been through, respected how I'd handled it. We'd been together for 6 months now. My phone buzzed. Mail notification. A letter forwarded from the prison, from Elise. I opened it, read the first paragraph. Tearful apologies, explanations about being swept up, manipulated, regrets about everything, questions about whether there was any chance, any possibility of reconciliation. I walked to the fireplace and lit the letter without finishing it. Some people ask if I feel guilty, if maybe I went too far. Here's my answer. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. Every consequence they faced came directly from their own choices. Elise chose to create a rotation. Rollins chose to abuse his power. All 6 of them chose to conspire to frame me, ruin my life, steal everything I'd worked for. I just defended myself, made sure the truth came out. Rollins is in federal prison because he was corrupt. Elise is a felon because she committed conspiracy and fraud. All 6 of their lives are ruined because they tried to ruin mine first and picked the wrong target. I sleep fine at night. Business is booming. Marjorie and I are planning a vacation to Maine next month. I train other veterans in security work, giving them purpose and income. Life's better than it's ever been. Sometimes I think about that November afternoon. Rollins in his uniform, thinking his badge made him untouchable. Elise thinking her carefully coordinated rotation would never be discovered. All 6 of them thinking they could conspire against me and walk away clean. They learned a hard lesson. Never attack a man trained to win wars. Because you don't get a fight. You get systematic, tactical destruction. And that's exactly what I gave them. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day.